Welcome to Paper Trails, a podcast by Albemarle Paper about restaurants, industry news, and entrepreneurship. Hosted by Nick Kalogeromitros. Each episode features insights from industry leaders, business owners, and experts sharing what it takes to grow and succeed.
What's going on, guys? How are you? And welcome back to the Paper Trails podcast. I'm your host, Nick Kalogeromitros, and I have Conrad Hunter, who is the founder and owner, CEO of Foxcroft Food and Wine.
Food and Wine.
That's the official.
This week, yeah.
So a little bit of a rebrand, I think, that you guys are doing.
Yeah, we toyed with that for many years. You know, we were originally the wine shop at Foxcroft over in South Park when we started. Opened that up. The original store, the wine shop in Dilworth, which is now out of business. I came in as an operating partner.
Okay.
And we've diverged, and I bought my partner out because I wanted to do food and wine.
There we go.
And we didn't want to throw away the goodwill that everybody knew that place as the wine shop. So,
sure.
At Foxcroft.
Love it. So,
So we kept the name just to.
Absolutely.
We didn't go far enough, I guess.
Yes. So, a little rebrand, but we're excited to have Conrad on the podcast. This is season 3, episode 7, and so excited to bring you guys another story from another business owner here in the Charlotte area. Conrad obviously has some locations here in Charlotte, but we also have some other locations. We've got Greenville, South Carolina, Raleigh. Yep. So we're in other parts, South Carolina, other parts of North Carolina as well. So if you guys have not had a chance to try Foxcroft, stop by, see which one is closest to you, and obviously follow all their socials and their handles. But Conrad, thanks for being a guest on the podcast today.
Thank you.
And look forward to getting to know you and your story a little bit better.
Look at you or this?
Either one, it doesn't matter. Yeah, me is good, it's fine. So let's talk a little bit about your story. Where are you from? Are you from Charlotte originally?
I'm from Charlotte, unfortunately.
Okay, all right. So
not exciting, yeah.
All right. How have you? Obviously you're an owner of a business. Is that something that you've always wanted to do?
No.
Is that something? Okay,
It's the opposite of what I wanted to do.
Okay.
I wanted no responsibility.
Okay.
No entangling alliances. Nothing. And you meet someone, you fall in love, and things change, right?
Absolutely.
So, I was a musician the first half of my life.
Okay.
From the time I was about 8 years old, my family would say, "What do you want to do?" And it's like, "I'm going to be a musician." It's like, "But what do you really want to do?" It's like, "You didn't hear me. I'm going to be a musician."
Okay.
Didn't want to go to college, not for the normal reasons. I think most people, I just didn't felt like it was a waste of time and money.
Sure.
That was the American dream, right? Send your kids to college, get a degree,
Yeah.
go out, start a business, work for somebody,
Yeah.
retire, and die, And I just wanted to play music, so they said, "Well, we've saved up all this money. You got to go to college." So I said, "All right, well, I'm going to go major in music," and I did. I wanted to go to Berklee School of Music, which was one of the better schools in the country at the time. There's like 3: North Texas State, University of Miami, Berklee for contemporary music, not classical.
Okay.
I don't like classical music.
Okay.
I like some of it, but not,
Now,
I took piano lessons. So.
Does your family have a background in music, or was that something unique to you?
No, I was picked up at the hospital by the wrong family. I always felt like, you got me mixed up somewhere in the baby.
So that was unique to you. You love music, a passion for it.
Yeah.
Wasn't necessarily in the family. Your parents, weren't artists or musicians or anything of that sort.
No, they were very normal. My dad worked for McLean Trucking Company, which was out on Graham. He was the guy that basically founded the container trucks. Back in the 60s.
Okay.
My mom worked as secretary and stenographer. Came out of college. They met. Strangely enough, she couldn't wait to get out of North Carolina. She's from Winston-Salem. Went to Texas in the 50s when she got out of high school and bumped into my dad somehow. He was out there in the Air Force, during the Korean War, and they wound up getting married and coming back here, and here I am.
Nice. Okay, so fast forward, you're in college. Now you said Berklee?
Well, I went to East Carolina because they said that's too expensive.
Okay,
so go in state.
Okay.
So I started looking in state for music schools, and that was the best one.
Okay.
Had the best music program. Went down there. I already had decided I was going to go to Berkeley. I was going to bide my time. You
Yeah.
know. And then we moved to Boston. I transferred, went up to Berkeley.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how was your experience at ECU with the music? Was that a big learning curve? Did you learn a lot? Was it just kind of fun? Just a good time?
Well, I didn't have a lot of self-confidence back then, but I auditioned for the jazz band. They have two different jazz bands, orchestras, and I won first chair, beat out all the seniors and everybody as a freshman.
Wow.
To play piano. So I must have been good.
Yeah.
East Carolina had girls, Berkeley not so much.
Now, was piano your main? I don't even know instrument.
It's the one I got paid to play.
Okay. All right. So, So ECU, you were good. You jazz. You tried out.
I was also into punk rock, dude. I discovered punk rock in the '70s, so I was a little at odds with myself, So, when you're playing piano, you're back there in the back. Even Elton John, you're back there. And play guitar, you can be out front and rock it out. So I took up guitar and bass and learned to play those.
Okay. While in college, or before that? Before that. Okay. So you had some experience with some other instruments as well. Okay. All right. So you end up going to Berkeley.
Trombone, but we're not going to talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah, that was when they had orchestras in elementary school, and I wanted to play trumpet, and they go up and they nobody wants to play trombone, so they look at you and say, "Let me see your lips, armature." It's like, no, you play trombone, because they have to push you in there.
Yeah.
So
fill the slots, right?
Yeah, right. There'd be a bunch of trumpets, right?
I get it.
Yeah.
So ECU, then you end up going to Berkeley.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what was that experience like?
Cold.
Okay.
Cold, dark.
Because it was Boston.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gets dark at 4 a.m. or 4 p.m. Seriously. And I did well up there. I was on the dean's list.
Wow.
Did well. Met a lot of people that were not famous then. They're famous now. They stuck it out. I went back, transferred back because I just got homesick, and I never lived in a big city. And Boston's probably not the first place you want to go live.
Yeah.
They're kind of crazy up there. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. So finished school. You said you transferred back. First job out of college. Are you still staying in music, or what? Well, where's your career take you?
Well, when I went back, I got out of the music program, and I got a degree in English and philosophy.
Okay.
Because I don't know why I did that, but I just figured I might as well learn something while I'm here.
Okay.
And back then you didn't go to college necessarily for a career. You learned to be educated, and it was a good time. I had a good time there. I played music, played in a band while I was in college, and went out and did shows and stuff like that. I'd been playing music, my whole life. I was too young to even be in a band. We used to play when I was here in Charlotte before college, and the band would sneak me out the back door when police would come in. These clubs we play, because I was too young to be in those clubs playing.
Sure.
And then the cops would leave, and they'd bring me back in, and we finished the show.
That's hilarious.
So I mean, music never left. I just left the business.
Gotcha.
I guess, or that, but I knew when I got out of school I was going to play music. I don't know, what is it, restless? I don't know what the reason. I just did.
Okay.
So
you had said your first half of your career you were the musician. So
yeah.
you followed that for a little while.
I played. I was a player. Played in groups. Was on the road touring. Eventually, I also wrote music, so I had a little recording rig that I carried with me on the road, and that
Nice.
little 4-track cassette recorder. I think the same one Bruce Springsteen did Nebraska on, one of those Tascam 4-track recorders.
Okay.
And started doing my own tracks, and then started recording other people. And I said, well, if I had 8 tracks, I could, have 4 more tracks, and I could be more creative. And 8 tracks turned into 16. The 16 turned into 24, and 24 turned into 48. And pretty soon we had a full-blown recording rig, and I was doing all these bands. Still working. I had a friend here in Charlotte, had a French restaurant just down the street here.
Okay.
By Freedom Park. It's considered one of the better restaurants in Charlotte at the time in the 80s. And,
what was it called?
It was called Chez Daniel.
Okay.
And Patrick and his brother Daniel is named after his brother. got tapped by what's now Bank of America, that, you know, Hugh McCall and his guys, to come downtown and open. They were trying to revitalize downtown because, you know, business had died and everything had moved out of this center city.
Why is that? Just curious.
Well, suburbs, you know, it's cheaper. You know,
Okay.
South Park opened up and all that. So Belts, Ivies, all those guys used to have a presence down there. They moved out.
Okay.
And I don't know. You know, Charlotte's always been trying to catch up since the Civil War. You know, it was a transportation hub back then. It developed railroads way before Charleston and Raleigh and all those places. And so when Sherman came through, for whatever reason, they said, well, don't burn Charlotte, you know, because we're going to need that stuff when we beat these guys.
Yeah.
And we'll need to transport all this cotton up to the north, you know. And so Charlotte has always been trying to catch up and prove itself, I think.
Okay.
You know, so, and they had the money because the banks came down here to do another story. I'm going off on a tangent.
No,
I will go on a rabbit hole if you give me a chance, but I'm a historian too. So
okay.
I'm a family genealogist.
Oh, perfect. I'm just curious, actually, and maybe even for our listeners that are.
Was there a question? What was the question?
For the audience, what was the food scene like in the '80s in Charlotte?
It was actually pretty good.
Was it?
I mean, it was very limited because it was all French influence. You know.
Okay.
You know, haute cuisine was the thing. You know, there was 3 or 4 French restaurants here.
Okay.
And they all kind of. California cuisine was just getting started with, you know, Wolfgang Puck and, you know, all the guys out in California. Sorry, I'm hitting a brainwave there, but it hadn't really hit here, but it was starting to influence, you know, the farm to table.
Sure.
For lack of a better thing, Chez Panisse, like that's what I was trying to pull out of myself. But it was more classical, you know, in the sense of, you know, and people were just starting to experiment with food.
Yeah.
The big tall foods, you know, the tuna stacks with avocado, all that kind of stuff. But they wanted a restaurant downtown to kind of bring people down
Gotcha.
there. And he was an amateur musician. I was an amateur cook. I always liked to cook too. So to me, food and wine and music and all that stuff kind of hits the same spot.
Sure.
And he wanted to have live music, so he said, help me develop a music program down here, a live music program. And so that's when I started hanging out with those guys. And
that's your friends here with the French restaurant?
Yeah, they've been gone for 30, 40 years now.
Okay, yeah.
And his brother would open bottles of wine and come around, hey, try this, you know, what is this? And I started developing a taste for stuff outside of Boone's Farm, right?
Okay.
You know, and I remember it was my birthday. The aha moment for me was my birthday, and the guys in the restaurant said, hey, we're all going to chip in and buy you a bottle of wine. Pick out a bottle that you want off the wine list, you know.
Okay.
And so I immediately looked at what's the most expensive one. That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
And it was a bottle of Bordeaux, and I drank it. I think it was $50 at the time, which was obscenely expensive.
Yeah.
But they bought it, and then it's like, okay, we didn't want you to buy that expensive of a. And I loved it. It tastes like dirt. And it's like, okay, this tastes like dirt. I like the taste of dirt. That's the only way I could describe it.
Sure.
You know, and so I started trying to find wines that taste like dirt.
Okay.
And I found I like Bordeaux, you know, which was Cabernet and Merlot and a blend. And never planned on going into that business, you know. So the restaurant was about 25 years ahead of its time. You know, it's now the Johnson & Wales campus down on Trade Street.
Okay.
Down at the Gateway Center.
Nice.
It was called the Artist Cafe back then. So that was the seed that got planted. And I always kept a few bottles around because, you know, to impress the girls and stuff. Like, okay, got a nice bottle of wine here.
So you always liked cooking, and then at that moment
I like to drink it too.
You liked, you know, you got a little bit of the flavor of wine and the love and the passion for that 25 years ahead of time. So okay.
I always helped my mom cook. She cooked about 6 dishes over and over again. She was good at 6 dishes. But
okay.
Yeah.
And your favorite out of those 6 were what?
Manicotti.
Manicotti. Okay.
Yeah. Which is hard to find on an Italian restaurant list these days. for some reason.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so you help at that first restaurant. You're putting the music program together.
Mm-hmm.
You're starting to get a love and passion for wine. What comes next? How do you know?
Well, the guys decided they didn't want to be in business with the bank anymore, and
Okay.
they did a non-compete and got out, and they sold it to another restaurateur here in town that was very famous, Slugs Claiborne, back in the day. He had the Slugs 20th edition, Slugs Rib, and he 20th edition, I think, was up where the Tower Club used to be back when there were no other skyscrapers in Charlotte.
Okay.
It was a 360-degree view of the city.
What year is this? Do you remember?
Well, we opened in '87, and this was probably around 1990, 91 when
Okay.
they decided to get out.
Okay.
So they left town, and I stayed on because the live music program brought people down, and they brought in a consultant to try to figure out, consultants are people that failed at their business and then go tell other people how not to fail, right? And, I stayed on, but, my recording thing was going full blast. I was making more money doing that than working for those guys.
So you're still recording on the side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. People thought we sold drugs in the house because there were so many cars out there, but it was actually a recording studio.
Okay.
And when they finally sold it, they weren't going to have live music and everything. It was going to be this place called Sluggers, which lasted about a year and failed because the only reason people came down there was the live music. I mean, we had everybody. We had Maria Howell, Mr. Potato Head, all these bands from all over the state, jazz and rock and everything. And we didn't charge a cover. And it was 7 nights a week, live music. So people ask me why I don't have live music in my place because I've already done that. And it's like, it's not necessarily a good business strategy.
Gotcha.
But they left, and so I went into the recording full time and moved the studio to a bigger place, a full-blown studio space.
Okay.
And started building it out. I still had the passion for wine. When I wasn't working in the studio, which was about 14, 16 hours a day, you'd find me in the wine store talking to wine people, wine reps, owners.
Yeah.
And didn't think about it. It was just a passion. You know? And it's like, and they said, "Are you in the business?" It's like, no. It's like, how do you know so much about wine? I said, well, I'm just kind of dive head first into things. It's all or nothing with me, you know. And I was telling Francisco, I was sitting in the studio one night at 3 a.m. doing a record. This was back before cell phones, and I get a call, and it's I know it's my wife because it's 3 a.m. And it's like, I pick up the phone, and she's like, "When are you coming home? Where are you?" She woke up, and I said, "Well, when they run out of money or they fall asleep, I'll come home." And I just started thinking, well, I probably need to get out of this business. It's not really conducive to a family. And the music business was kind of heading towards a cliff too.
Okay.
Digital recording, Napster, all that stuff was coming out, and it was just the whole distribution model was falling apart, with digital.
And you saw that coming?
I felt it coming. I don't know if I saw it coming, because I would have probably stayed with the studio if I hadn't been married, and because I love producing records and working in the creative process. But I was like, okay, I'm 38 years old. I'm too old to go back to college. I've got 2 kids here, and it's like I can't code, so I'll just go into something else that's slightly more lucrative, which is the wine business. And I worked as a distributor.
Okay.
Got a job right out of the bat, no experience coming in because I knew so much about wine. And
what was that like? Just like stepping into distribution now of something that you really enjoy?
Well, I worked for a big company. It was called Empire Distributors. They're still here.
Yeah.
And it was very corporate, and it was a bunch of nothing, really. I had a crappy route, it was basically the Concord Salisbury route, which there's not a lot of wine back then, You're selling more Tecate than you were, wine. But I did it, crawling around the back of Chili's in their coolers with the par-baked chickens and smell. Oh, I forgot my phone. That's when I bought a cell phone, when I had to have that. And it's like, well, this is not what I want to do. And I sought out a smaller boutique company that carried a lot of the cool wines I like to drink.
Okay.
They were in the Triangle, Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill. They said, well, we don't have any presence down in Charlotte, but we're going to open down there. And so they hired a guy that used to work for Empire, who was their fine wine director.
Okay.
And he brought me on as the first protege or whatever. And he's like, okay, here's 2 bags of wine. Okay. Here's all the people I'm not doing business with. You go out there and knock yourself out.
Yeah, and start selling.
You know, which is, if you don't like being told no, that's not the business you want to be in, because nobody wants to see another wine distributor. And but I did it for 4 or 5 years, and I never planned on getting out. It was a good company. They were creative people. They had a passion for wine and food, but
nice.
They got into a financial situation. Back then, we used to do a lot of pre-sales, and there was a company in Raleigh that was kind of taking a lot of business and ordering a lot of stuff, and they probably ordered about $500,000 worth of product, and then at the last minute when it came in, they said, "Oh, we're not going to pick it up." So by law, they didn't have to pick it up.
Wow!
So they were already $500,000 in the hole. And then we started hearing stuff. Oh, we hear your company's going to be sold from other distributors, and it's like, really? We never heard that, you know? And it's like, so they called a meeting, and we drove up to Durham. We were out in Research Triangle, Miami Boulevard.
Yep.
And they said, I don't know what all this talk is about selling the business, but we're not going to sell. I don't know where it's coming from. We're absolutely not in negotiations with anybody, any of that stuff. And we all went out after the meeting and said, yep, they're going to sell. And so I started looking for another avenue. And the guy that owned the wine shop here, Frank Red in Dilworth, was wanting to open a place in South Park and expand. And I said, well, I'll come in and be your operating partner. And I put a bunch of money. I borrowed some money from my father-in-law. We didn't have anything at the time. And,
sure.
Even though I'd sold my studio and I was getting paid over time to do that from my partner, but we put the money in and went in, and about 2 weeks into it, I realized this is a mistake, being in partnership with this guy, and I need to get out of it. And he wanted to sell it. He tried to push me out of the business, and, you know, I didn't know what an operating agreement or, you know, articles of organization, all that. He did all that. And I got taken advantage of, but I was not going to get out of the business. And he wanted the money more than I wanted out of it. So we bought him out, and it took another 7 years to kind of dig out from under that. So we had that one little store, South Park, and we built it from there.
That's awesome. Now, one thing I want to just kind of like pause for a second that I think is a valuable lesson for the audience, no matter if they're in hospitality or any other, if they're in landscape or roofing or plumbing, or it doesn't matter, is obviously the importance of finding the right business partner. You know, I think that's something that...
And showing up.
And when you,
showing up.
like to work as a partner? Yeah. I mean, for sure. You know, so I think that's something that we can just... just glean from, you know, some of your experiences where it's like, like if you are looking to start a business and partner up with somebody instead of being like a solopreneur or you being sole owner, if you are going to have a partnership, like make sure you know that person, make sure you understand their values, make sure you understand their work ethic, make sure you understand, you know, what their goals are and what they're looking for out of the business. Because, you know, if you don't, then, you know, maybe you might be at odds and you don't have the same vision for the business, and then it just gets a little hairier, right? You know, where it gets a little more complicated. So I think that's just something that maybe we could just take from really quick in your story, Conrad. So, so you buy the other gentleman out. After 7 years, you kind of, you know, take it over. You have that one store in South Park. What are some things early on that you can tell us about things that you learned early as a business owner, especially at the wine shop? Is there anything that is there anything that stands out to you that you didn't understand, financials or banking or employees or hiring or training? Is there anything that
all of that
stands out? Okay.
All of that.
Okay.
You got to remember I was a musician, right? For most of my life, and musicians are idealists for the most part. The unsuccessful ones anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, it was just, I started other businesses, the studio I started, you know, and I walked away from it, you know, and just, I knew that I needed to stay with it regardless, you know, and make sure all the bills get paid. I think I was the last one to get paid. still kind of the last one to get paid.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
That's how it works. I mean,
You got to make payroll. You got to, you got to do sales and use tax. You got to do all this stuff, unglamorous stuff that people don't see behind the wine bottles and the food. And,
yeah.
you got food costs. You got shrinkage. You got all that stuff. You got people copying you. I've had several businesses here in town copy our model. Not to be named, but
Sure.
they know who they are.
And that's something that, just I think sometimes in today's day and age, and we're in, filming this, end of October 2025, with social media and that, Conrad, I mean, I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on this, but I think it's business ownership is glamorized so much that people don't see that you're the last one to get paid. All they see is the Instagram, the watches, the flights, the trips, and all that. It's like, yeah, maybe at some point it will get there, but there's a lot of rough years in the beginning to get a business going where you're getting paid nothing and everyone's getting paid except for you, right?
Yep, correct.
So I think that's something that I just like to point out sometimes, that it's just it's not as glamorous sometimes as people make it out to be. The stress that you have is a lot.
It's still better than working for somebody else.
I agree. I'm not disagreeing, but I just want to make sure people understand what they're getting themselves into when they want to start a business. So
you have to have a North Star. You have to, because you're going to get knocked around, and you're going to get knocked off of your vision and your course, and you got to remember what that North Star is.
I love that.
And I mean, I learned a lesson about horizons, which I talked to my staff about. It's like the horizon is a thing. It's an imaginary thing. It's a creation, right? It's 2 points and there's a vista, and the more you go towards the horizon, it keeps going further away because you never reach it, because there's another. You never get there.
Sure.
So the only way to really measure, if you measure your success by the horizon, whether you hit the horizon, the North Star, or whatever you want to call it, you're going to be disappointed because you're never going to get there. So what you can do is pause, turn around, look backwards, look at those points that you set for yourself, those goals, and you achieved them, and that's your success.
Yeah.
Right? And that's it's easy to get knocked off of the course,
That makes sense. Okay, so let's backtrack a little bit. Took over the wine shop. You're learning. There's a lot of things. Musical background. You're not a financial guy. You're not a business guy. Obviously, you started a business with the record. So you
what I learned
is
I'm better a financial guy than all the people I thought were financial guys.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't mingle personal and business funds. And a lot of people don't know how to do that when they own a business. They dip into it and use it as a piggy bank.
100%. Or they think the money in the register is all their money, and it's like, no, there's expenses. So so yeah, I mean, handling money properly is a big part of business.
I used to explain it like a business. When you open a business, it's like a child when you have a baby. The baby can't take care of itself, right? It needs to be fed. It needs to be change its diapers, and eventually the baby's going to get older, and the expectation is that the baby will take care of you as you decline, and that's how you have to look at a business. You treat it like that.
I agree. I definitely agree. I think another way to think about it that I talk about is it's like the goose that lays the golden egg, but when it's a baby, it's not laying golden eggs yet. So you have to feed it and take care of it and nurture it. And then at some point, hopefully, it is laying some golden eggs. So, okay, perfect. All right. So fast forward a little bit. You have the South Park location. You're learning about business. You're operating, right? It becomes popular. Okay.
I saw
what years is this? Mid 90s now? Late 90s?
No, I didn't open until 2004.
Okay, so this is.
I left the music business in 1998.
Okay, so you left the music business. You were in the distribution. You took over the business. Okay.
For 5 years, yeah. I worked for Empire for a year, and then Sante for another 4.5.
Okay, perfect.
And back then, there was only really 3 serious places to buy wine in Charlotte. There's wine everywhere, but there was not serious wine.
Okay.
And that was Reed's, that was Arthur's in South Park, and that was the wine shop, Frank, my partner. That's where any serious people went.
Okay.
So, it was a good time for them, and that model worked great. And then you just call up hey, we got Pride Mountain just came in the latest release. You want a case? Yep, I'll take a case. And it's all sold. But, that model changed, with the internet and people selling online and all that. And I didn't see the future in running a retail store. I thought it needed to pivot and go more into food and wine and the whole experience, because you can't reproduce that online, and it's all about like
That's a good point,
a
actually.
cheers. People want to go where the guys know your name and they know what you like to drink. And, we ate dinner last night. No, my wife and I didn't want to cook because she'd been out in the yard doing landscaping and all that all day, and I was on doing my thing. And so let's go down there and have dinner. So you go in there, you know everybody in there, and they know you. And that's where we saw a future in our business. And we've tried to reproduce that in every neighborhood. This location, we're in Dilworth right now, by the way.
Yep.
It has its own group of regulars and people, and everybody knows the people who work here and stuff. And
So how long into having your own shop did you realize that you needed to pivot? Was it a year, a couple of years, 5 years?
I started doing it mid 2000s.
Okay.
We immediately added wine and food, but we didn't get any respect for the food because we were just doing charcuterie, and we had little pieces of cheese in a deli case, like every wine shop does. They do what they have to do. And it's like, well, let's make this a full thing, So we reopened the kitchen. The kitchen was always there. It got covered over when we built the shop.
Okay.
It had been a bunch of different restaurants. It was Metropolitan Cafe before we took it over. But originally, back in the 70s, it was the first place that legally served alcoholic beverages, liquor by the drink, in the whole state since Prohibition.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a place called Benedictines. They got the first ABC license. Mecklenburg County, for all you guys that weren't born back then, was the first county to get rid of brown bagging and dry and all that, and had liquor by the drink restaurants, which was a terrible thing for our city because it's only suffered, right? I'm joking. But
Okay.
No, but anyway, they were the first people to pull the mixed drink license, and they served Bloody Marys at 8 a.m. All the TV shows came down and filmed it. You can just do liquor by the drink, Charlotte, North Carolina.
Nice.
And it'll pop up.
Yeah.
It's a very dated looking thing, but that's where we are. And so we had a history to uphold. So we added the food and wine, by the glass. We added machines and stuff early on. And we didn't really have very good chefs. We had a bunch of people that kind of had just gotten out of Johnson Wells and things like that, and looked good on paper, and we didn't get a lot of respect. But our first chef really came on. I think Justin, who's no longer with us, he's with us about 12 years, and he's doing daddy duty now as a late bloomer daddy, but he was really passionate about food, and he came on and saw something, and we saw something in him, and that's when we started to build a reputation.
Which location was that?
South Park.
South Park. Okay.
Sorry, that's my phone.
Oh, you're good. Okay, so was that South Park location called Foxcroft?
It was called the Wine Shop at Foxcroft.
The wine shop at Foxcroft.
Yeah,
okay.
because the thing was called the Wine Shop. Very creative, right?
Yeah. And then
but that's what it was known as, so everybody knew it
and
as
then
the Wine Shop.
when did you change? When you
When I
took
bought
it
it
over?
out.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when we bought my partner out, there was a lot of blue sky that I paid for, because that was what it took to get him out of there.
Gotcha.
And as we started changing our model and we grew, I felt like they were actually benefiting from our business rather than the other way around. And we needed to differentiate ourselves. So we didn't want to go too far because we didn't want to think people, oh, it's a new owner, new concept.
Yeah.
So we called it Foxcroft Wine Company, which we thought was a little more vague. We should have just called it Foxcroft Food and Wine then, but we weren't thinking like that.
Gotcha.
And
It's okay. Yeah. So South Park's #1 store, and you had that for how long before you opened up #2?
9 years.
Okay, so you had it for a while.
Yeah.
So you were there. You hired
It's like
Justin.
Danny Meyer.
Yeah. So you're there. Hired Justin.
Yeah.
You started getting into food. You
Yeah.
started kind of delving into that. number 2 location 9 years later, which one is that that you opened? Right here? Dilworth?
Yep.
Okay.
2015.
What was it like going from 1 to 2, the difficulties of that? You know, when you have one location, you can be there, you're operating, you're helping, all that. When you get 2, now it gets a little tricky. Now you're scaling. Now you can't be at both locations. What was that like for you opening a second location?
It was a learning curve for sure. You know, learning to work with architects. I pretty much laid this out. We started with a group that didn't really understand our concept, and we parted ways on the design, and I took it over and took what we had and kind of made it a little warmer.
Okay.
Like the barnwood was my thing and all this, and these shelves. This was on the back of a napkin. It's like, I need a shelf that can hold 4 cases of wine under there, because we didn't have, back in the days when there's a retail store, you just have stacks of wine. You cut the cases, stack them high and let them fly. That's what they called it, right?
Okay.
And we wanted to pivot away from being known as a retail store.
Okay.
You could still come in, because I think the concept of being able to walk up and touch the bottles, look at them, look at the price, you know, as opposed to a list, you know, which I think is outdated and drives me crazy. But, it was difficult. Because we hired a whole new crew. Sharon came over here, who was our GM at the old store, and a lot of hits and misses. You know, when we opened up the doors, we were drinking out of a fire hydrant. You know, there's just so many people, because you know Charlotte likes the new place, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think we got off to the best start. You know, because I think we had to readjust our hospitality, the way we looked at hospitality.
Okay.
And because we developed that over time, and I think we've gotten there here at Dilworth now, you know, it's like, but what were the difficulties? I guess just staffing, everything, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I hadn't even been over to Dilworth in 7 years, you know. That's 7 miles away from where I live. You know, it's like when I opened the first store, I lived so much in that store that I only drove 1.5 miles each way to my house. I got to go over there at 5:30 in the morning, put bottles of wine on the shelf that I couldn't get up the night before. There were only 3 of us, you know, and I was pretty much the guy that everybody asked for, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, where's Conrad? He knows what I like. What you having? Chicken. It's like, you can drink pretty much any damn bottle in the It's like, and it took a long time to wean people off of that, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't need Conrad to pick your bottle of wine for you.
Okay. So 9 years, second location, Dilworth. Okay.
Then we started to open one every year.
Okay.
Well, what I wanted to do after that was I wanted to open a cocktail bar, because I'd always wanted to have a speakeasy kind of thing.
Okay.
And I reached out to an old friend of mine, Stefan Hubner, who he was actually he was in a band that I recorded at my old studio.
Okay.
And he wasn't in hospitality back then, but he wound up getting a culinary degree.
Okay.
And working at Mythos, or it might have been Cosmos, downtown, one of the Greek-owned places.
Yeah. I remember it.
Yeah, and you know, he was working for other people, but he was a bigger than life personality, and it's like, okay, that's the guy I want to be the face of the business. So
Okay.
The people that own this shopping center also own Park Road, and they were developing Park Road. And it's like, okay, I want everything to be close by so I can get to everything.
Okay.
And there's nothing old in this part of town except Park Road Shopping Center, and the backside of it would be perfect, because it was a mess back there back then. And we looked around. They showed us little shops and things that said, no, that's not really what we want. And I looked on their map, and I saw this little space over here underneath the hardware store, and it's like, what's that? And they said, that's where we store our Christmas tree wreaths and our green eggs it's a storage space.
Yeah.
I said, I want to rent that. It's like, well, it's not on the plan to rent. It's like, well, see if you can get it on the plan to rent. And obviously, there's no money put aside to develop it. What they call tenant improvement money. And I said, well, okay, well, we'll pay for it all ourselves. Give us a sweetheart deal. And so we went in there and cleaned that out and gutted it and built a cocktail bar, which is ... now.
Okay.
And that's me too. So we opened that. That was paused. Then I realized, okay, I need to stick with Foxcroft because that's the one I can actually translate and scale.
Yeah.
So we went down to Greenville, South Carolina, which was on fire at the time.
Store 3 was Greenville?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, so, you know, you kind of veered off the, you know, close by thing, right?
Yeah.
You know, did you know somebody down there?
No.
How did Greenville, like, how did that even come about?
Well, you know, my perception of Greenville is what most people's was back in the 90s. You know, it was a big textile. It was probably the largest textile city in the world at the time.
Wow.
Before, you know, NAFTA and all that stuff. And it kind of dried up, and they reinvented themselves, and they created a plan to regrow the place, and they built the park, and they have that river going through, which is beautiful. And you go down there, it's like, wow, they got all these restaurants down here and I've never heard of these things. They're all like locally grown restaurants.
Yeah.
There's people walking around, and there's activity, and it's like, we need to be down here.
What year was this that you opened in Greenville?
2018.
Okay.
18.
7 years ago.
We opened 17 in ... and then we went down there 18.
Okay.
And we went into an old building that was 100-plus-year-old building where they used to have a Model T Ford dealership. And it was different, you know. It's a different city.
Yeah.
They got a different vibe down there.
Sure.
I mean, they got Bob Jones University, which is ultra evangelical Christian, and they got drag queen story hour. It's like a weird combination of all that.
Interesting. Okay.
I've never seen a Buddhist monk walking around in Charlotte, but I've seen them down there. Full robes and everything.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
So Greenville opens. Now you're in a different city.
Yeah. We brought our crew down. We brought 4 of our. Justin moved down. Eric, who used to be with us. Ivy, who's still the general manager down there, and Chris Maidosh, who was our chef. And we rented an old. They turned a lot of those old factories into lofts and stuff. So we rented a loft where everybody could live, you know. And the idea was we were going to be down there for 6 months, get it started, and get their crew going.
Yeah.
Wind up turning into a year because it didn't get off to, you know. They do a good job at marketing themselves, but you know, tourist towns I've found, you know, they don't have that core business. They got people coming through, so you're meeting new people every night. You know, and you get one chance, you know, to make an impression. We have our regulars that are down there. They live, but you know, they don't go downtown during the weekends because all the tourists are down there, and it's just a headache. So we learned that. Justin and Eric wound up moving back up. Ivy and Chris stayed down there, and they're still there, you know, in Greenville.
Perfect. So, okay. And
then Waverly.
Waverly
they approached us about Waverly. I'd passed on Waverly 2 years before.
Okay.
Because I just didn't think this works in the burbs, you know.
Yeah.
So that's not our crowd. And then Chris Thomas, who's principal at Childress Klein, you know, he said he was a big fan at the first store. It's like, man, you got to come down here. I promise you, you'll do good down here.
Okay.
And we have. It's a great. You know, people need stuff to do down there too. You know?
Yeah.
It's different demographics, a lot of young families.
Okay.
You know, it's gotten a lot busier down there. You
know. So store 4 was Waverly.
Waverly in 2019.
Okay.
We were open about 4 months before COVID, and then COVID shut everything down, and it dried up. You know.
I remember that time. Yep.
Yeah, and so I don't know if you want me to talk about COVID, but we basically shut all our locations down.
Okay.
We couldn't run the cocktail bar, and we left Dilworth and South Park open and did carry out and to go and all that stuff. And our little customer base kept us going, you know.
That's awesome.
And I signed up for every loan you could possibly get and free money and all that. That was who I was on the phone with, the ideal people. And that's the way it went. And then we paused for a couple years trying to get regrouped, and everything came out of COVID pretty strong. And I remember I started talking to the guys at Birkdale when the new ownership took over.
Yep.
And I said,
which was a few years ago, right?
Yeah, in 2020, actually. I started talking to them in December of 2020.
So the new owners bought it in 2020?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wow. Okay. So
North American Properties from Atlanta, and the group that's based in Atlanta did it, and they were going to put all this money into it, and they wanted to kind of jazz it up a little bit. You know, it was 25 years old, right?
Yeah.
So it was ready for a remake. And And I approached the guy that was representing them, Adam Williams, and said, hey, I know there's already a wine bar there, but if they ever close or anything, I'd love to be in line for space. And they said, well, we're actually going to not renew their contract. And
Nice.
So and I said, well, I'm interested.
Let's do something.
Yeah, and it took a lot longer to get that off the ground, because the space they originally wanted to put us into was not going to work for us.
Gotcha.
Because one thing I learned from COVID is you need to have a patio, and people like to sit outside and enjoy their beverages.
Absolutely.
In the al fresco, So
yeah.
And we got in there and we started digging and breaking up the concrete and to rerunning our piping, and we found out, they got a river underneath this space that it had been a broken pipe that had been there for years, and it had it wound up delaying the whole opening about a year. Yeah. So at the same time I was negotiating at North Hills in Raleigh. I'd been up there before we opened Waverly, and we went up there and there was like, you're who? What do you do? It's like, okay, we're not gonna fly up here. We're not. And by the time we 2024 came around, they knew who we were.
Okay.
And welcomed us there.
So Raleigh was your last location?
Mm-hmm.
So Brookdale opened
back in January. Brookdale was January a year ago.
24.
Mm-hmm.
And then January of 25.
Well, actually June of 24 we got opened in Brookdale.
Okay.
It was supposed to be January.
Okay.
And then we opened so these two stores were back to back. That had not been the plan to open.
Yeah.
I'm not that crazy, but that's how it worked out. And so,
That's awesome. I love that. Now, real quick, as we wrap up, if no one has ever been to a Foxcroft, talk to them about the food. Yes, you that are listening. If you haven't been to the six locations, okay. Tell somebody about Foxcroft, the ambiance, the feeling, the environment, the food. What kind of food is it? The menu. You give us a little flavor of what Foxcroft is all about.
So, I like to say we're serious about wine, so you don't have to be. We try to demystify the wine and all that. We also like our customers to be engaged. They can walk around, touch bottles, look, and if they need help, there's always somebody here to help that's got somm level knowledge. The food has always been like shareable plates. We have entrees as well, but we want people to order multiple things and share and taste. And I feel like that's the way people like to dine these days. And you come back more than once, you're a regular, and you'll get to know our staff. They're all solid people, have interest outside of the restaurant as well. And I don't know, it's just a real experience. It's not a transactional thing.
Yeah.
So,
I can tell, I've been to multiple locations. I haven't been to Raleigh or Greenville, but all the other ones I've been to, and just meeting the staff, talking to them, the ambiance, the feel, you could definitely feel the warmth of walking into a Foxcroft, food and wine, and feel that it's very down to earth, homey, fantastic from my perspective. So love that. As we wrap up, Conrad, real fast, from your experience in business and being an operator and expanding and scaling a company, if there's somebody out there right now listening to this that would like to get into business ownership, or would just like to honestly level up and just maybe they want to become an executive or C-suite, or just, somebody that wants to progress in their life. You have a lot of experience, obviously, in business and in, being successful in the music industry as well. What are some things, what's a takeaway? What's a tip? What is a nugget for somebody to take that they can apply to their life if they want to finish out this year on a high note or start building some momentum, or maybe they haven't had a good year and they want to get back on track and they want to make sure 2026 is a better year, is a banner year for them and their family? What are some things that you could suggest to them to continue to progress in their life?
Believe in yourself. That's a very cliched thing, but don't drink your Kool-Aid. Don't believe what other people tell you about yourself. Make a list. I'm a big list maker,
Okay.
Create some goals, set set those goals so you can have accountability. If you can't hold yourself accountable, find somebody that'll hold you accountable.
It's good.
To hit those, get out of your own way. Don't, a lot of entrepreneurs are perfectionists. They want things 100%. And I've been saying this for years. It's, if you can get 80% of it right, let it go. It's not going to be perfect, but if you've built a staff, build a team too, that can support you and your vision, and let them fix what you get out of the way, and let it happen, Know when to step in. I mean, there's a gazillion things you can do, but
I love that. I think that's very wise what you're saying as far as believe in yourself. That's super important. I mean, you've got to have some sort of built-in confidence that I think only happens through repetition and hard work. I mean, I can tell, gain your confidence from those 5:30 a.m. restocking the shelves, knowing the business, knowing how to sell, being in the distribution, knowing the products. I mean, you were the expert. People knew you. They trusted you when they came in to ask you about, so that only comes from years of work and effort, and then I think very wise, build the right team, and people have different strengths, let them play in their strengths. I think that's very powerful what you're saying right now. I realize even building our company, the same thing. I can only go so far, but what's the saying? If you want to go fast by yourself, if you want to go far, go with a team. And so I just realized that I can only do so much by myself. You got to put the right people in place to help you.
There's an anecdote. Goes, Frank Sinatra doesn't move pianos. Frank Sinatra's there to sing, right? But he has to have this team that moves pianos, sets up lights, gets the piano to the different cities and all that. But what they're coming for is that hour and a half or whatever he's on stage. He's dead now, but
Yeah.
But that was an anecdote I learned, in coaching.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. I love that. Well, Conrad, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I appreciate it. As I mentioned earlier, obviously this is season 3, episode 7. With Conrad Hunter, founder of Foxcroft Food and Wine. If you guys have not stopped by any of the locations, stop by, support their local business. And we're excited to have you guys on. If you guys haven't subscribed to the podcast, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, check us out, subscribe, share with all your friends, and we will come back with you with more and more stories of business owners in the area of your favorite restaurants. So with that, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. One more thing I have for you. I have a